something thousand range. And then 24 hours later, Alexa Filippo, she went on ESPN and she was like, well, the players still aren't happy with that. And a lot of people are like, wait, why? What's going on? Like 1.1 million, that's a huge increase, because if you guys remember, the maximum salary in the WNBA for this past season was around 220,000. So obviously that's a massive increase if the max is going to go to 1.1 million. So fans were confused on that. And then Annie Costable.
That confusion you just heard? That's exactly where most WNBA fans are right now. The league offered players a $1.1 million maximum salary. 24 hours later, the players' union said they're still not happy. And fans across social media immediately asked the same question. Why would you turn down a deal that increases the max salary from $20,000 to over $1 million? But here's what nobody's talking about. That 1.1 million number, it might not be what it seems. And the real story behind these negotiations reveals something way more complicated than greedy players or stingy owners.
On Front Office Sports, and basically said the $1 million offer isn't what it seems, and the 1.1 million wouldn't be their base salary. The base salary would still be that 850,000 number, and then you could get up to 1.1 million if you reach the different bonuses throughout the season. And honestly, you guys, these details do not matter. This does not matter. What has transpired over this last 72 hours doesn't matter at all.
So let's break down what actually happened in the last 72 hours. The WNBA made their offer public first. Maximum salary of 1.1 million. League average salary around 500,000. And minimum salary in the 2,000 range. On paper, that's a massive jump. The current max is 220,000. So we're talking about a 5 times increase for top players. But then Alexa Filippo went on ESPN and said the players weren't satisfied. Fans lost their minds. The comment sections exploded. And then Amy Costabello, from Front Office Sports, published a breakdown that changed the entire narrative.
I don't know who to trust, so I don't actually care so much this is the same kind of stuff that has been going on for the past 6 months. Clearly, both sides are trying to gain the approval of the public's opinion. They're trying to sway how the public feels about what's going on in the CBA negotiations. So was the WNBA lying and kind of boosting their story by saying that we're going to give the players 1.1 max salary? Sure, maybe. Or was the $1.1 million max salary increase falsely reported? Maybe they didn't report it properly and they said oh, it's going to be 1.1, but they didn't put in the caveats of what that actually means. And then on the other side,
according to Costabello's reporting, that 1.1 million isn't actually the base salary. The base would be 850,000, and players would only hit 1.1 million if they reach specific performance bonuses throughout the season. Now suddenly the deal looks different. You're not guaranteed 1.1 million just for being a max player. You have to earn the extra 250,000 through incentives. And this is where it gets messy. Because now we have 2 completely different versions of the same offer circulating in the media. The league's version sounds generous. The players' version sounds like smoke and mirrors. And fans are stuck in the middle trying to figure out who's telling the truth.
Players, for the longest time, have also come out and said the WNBA is just trying to put lipstick on a pig and this, that. We've heard everything from all sides. It doesn't change anything. It seems like they're at the exact same point in the negotiations, and I have no clue who to trust. And I don't trust anyone. To be honest, I do not trust what anyone is saying. And my mind is just just tell me if there's going to be a season next year. And I feel like that's the opinion of most fans.
Here's the problem with all of this. Both sides are clearly trying to win the public relations battle, instead of just negotiating behind closed doors. The league leaks their offer to make it sound as good as possible. The players push back publicly to maintain leverage, and every single development gets reported like it's breaking news, even though nothing is actually changing. This has been going on for 6 months now. The same cycle keeps repeating. Leak, reaction, clarification, outrage, repeat. And the longer it drags out, the less fans actually care about the detail.
They're watching other things on television. They're watching football. They're watching the NBA. They're watching college basketball. And they're basically saying go ahead, do your thing. You guys can argue and figure it out or don't figure it out. Just kind of let me know if there's going to be a season. And that's just kind of how I feel at this point in time. I think it would be a waste of my time to share with you guys the details that are being shared because I don't know if any of it's true. And we don't know what the WNBA players want. The WNBA players have never once come out and said, we want this max salary, we want this revenue share.
Think about where we are right now. It's January. Football is dominating the sports calendar. The NBA is in full swing. College basketball is heating up. The WNBA season ended 4 months ago, and casual fans have completely moved on to other things. The people still paying attention to these negotiations? They've already picked their side. There's one camp that believes the WNBA has never turned a profit, and the players are asking for too much. There's another camp that will support the players no matter what they demand, even if it's unrealistic. Neither group is changing their mind based on whether the max salary is $1.1 million or $850,000 with bonuses. So who exactly are they trying to convince at this point?
Has been rumblings, like Kelsey Plum did an interview where she said, like, we want 50% of the revenue sharing, just like the NBA has. So that seems to be the number. I don't think there's any way that they get that, especially during this CBA. And I also think that there's certain camps right now with WNBA fans. I feel like there's a camp who believes that the WNBA hasn't profited in forever, and they think the women are asking for too much, and they're just always going to kind of side with the WNBA and be like, the players need to be great.
Now let's talk about what the players actually want, because that's been surprisingly unclear throughout this entire process. The union has never publicly stated their specific demands. We don't know what max salary they're asking for. We don't know what revenue share percentage they want. We're all just guessing based on fragments of information. Kelsey Plum did an interview where she mentioned wanting 50% revenue sharing, matching what NBA players get. If that's the actual target, then we need to have a very different conversation about whether that's realistic for a league that's operated at a loss for most of its existence.
In so many episodes of the other off-season leagues that have been in the picture, and how pretty much everybody in the WNBA PA, or the people who are part of that committee, they are now all signed to one of these off-season leagues, and some of these leagues that could rival the WNBA. I will just say this. I don't think any of these off-season leagues succeed in the long run, like past the next few years, if the WNBA is not a thing. The players who are playing in these off-season leagues, the salaries that they're getting in these off-season leagues, the worth that the...
But here's what makes this situation even more complicated. All these alternative leagues have popped up during the off-season. Unrivaled is paying players 6 figures for a 3-on-3 tournament. Project B is offering massive salaries for 2-week events. Athletes Unlimited exists, but barely has any star power. And most of the players on the negotiating committee have already signed deals with these competing leagues. So now the question becomes, do the players actually need the WNBA as much as they used to? Or do they feel like they have enough leverage to walk away if they don't get what they want?
Leagues are determining that they are worth is because of how they play in the WNBA, and because of their brand that they've built because they play in the WNBA. And I do think if the WNBA ceases to exist, or if they skip a season, like, all this momentum is why the players are saying that they deserve more and they want their revenue share to go up as the years continue. Like, as the league grows, the WNBA wants their revenue share to also grow with the league so that they are earning money. But all of that comes off the back of the last 2 seasons that they've had.
Let's think through what actually happens if there's no WNBA season next year, because that's the scenario nobody wants to talk about, but it's becoming more realistic every day that passes without a deal. First, the players lose their primary platform. Every single one of these alternative leagues exists because of the brand recognition players built in the WNBA. Unrivaled can pay Breanna Stewart $250,000 because she's a WNBA champion and MVP. Project B can market Angel Reese because of her rivalry with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Take away that foundation, and suddenly these leagues don't have the same drawing power. Second, the momentum dies. The WNBA just had its 2 best seasons in league history. Caitlin Clark's rookie year brought in record viewership. The playoffs had their highest ratings ever. Championship games averaged over 1 million viewers. All of that disappears if they skip a season. And in today's media environment where attention spans are measured in seconds, you can't just pause for a year and expect everyone to come back. Third, and this is the part that really matters, the players who suffer most are the ones we never talk about. It's not Breanna Stewart or Aja Wilson or Sabrina Ionescu. They'll be fine. They have endorsement deals. They have overseas contracts. They have options. It's the player making league minimum who's in her 3rd or 4th season, trying to establish herself, who doesn't have a massive social media following. She's not getting invited to play in Unrivaled. She's not signing a deal with Project B. If the WNBA shuts down for a season, her career might be over.
The quickest growth that we've seen in the WNBA. If you halt all of that, and I've been one who has said this from the beginning, if you halt all of that and for some reason lock out this season or strike this season, I think you lose all of your leverage if that happens. And I do think if the WNBA didn't happen and Project B ended up being like, Project B is completely different from the WNBA. They're playing in 2-week tournaments and traveling around, and it also seems.
Now, here's where this gets personal, and why I think the approach to these negotiations reveals something important about leverage and timing. When you're negotiating anything, whether it's a job offer or a business deal or a collective bargaining agreement, you have to know your actual value in the market, not what you think you're worth, not what you deserve based on effort or talent, your actual market value based on what someone will pay you. The WNBA players are coming off their best 2 seasons ever. Ratings are up, attendance is up, sponsorship deals are bigger. That's real leverage, but it's also temporary leverage because it's based entirely on momentum that can disappear very quickly.
They're more worried about kind of the spectacle of it all and making it a really cool show and entertainment value in the streaming platform. And then Unrivaled obviously is 3v3. They would have to change to 5v5. They would have to get a completely different setup and everything. They play on a shortened court. Like it's not true basketball. Like AU is the closest thing to true basketball, and that league is hanging on by a thread. I'm sorry.
Think about it this way. If I'm negotiating a contract, and I know my value is going to be higher in 1 year than it is right now, I might take a shorter deal with a lower salary just to get back to the negotiating table faster. That's smart business. You're betting on yourself to prove your worth, and then cash in when you have more leverage. But if I'm negotiating from a position of peak value, and I know there's a chance that value could decrease, then I need to maximize what I can get right now, because the opportunity might not be there next year. So which situation are the WNBA players in? Are they at the beginning of a growth curve where their value is going to keep increasing? Or are they at a peak moment that might not last?
To build their names, build their likeness, build their career, keep the momentum going, and keep the WNBA going, because they're also under the NBA umbrella. And a lot of people have argued like the NBA shouldn't be owning 50% of the league, but the NBA also has the ability to truly help the WNBA as well. So when I was thinking about this and the negotiations and things that I've done for certain jobs in my career, there is kind of 2 ways that you can go about it, where you know it's a career builder, and maybe there's something in the CBA. If the CBA is supposed to be.
The argument for continued growth is pretty straightforward. Caitlin Clark is entering her 2nd season. The rivalry between her and Angel Reese is still fresh. New expansion teams are coming. The media rights deal is bigger than ever before. If you believe all of that adds up to even higher ratings and more revenue, then it makes sense to hold out for a better deal, even if it means risking a lockout. But the counter-argument is equally compelling. Caitlin Clark's rookie season was a once-in-a-generation moment. She came into the league with more hype than any player in WNBA history. That's not sustainable. The novelty wears off, and if ratings dip next season, even slightly, suddenly the players have less leverage than they do right now. And then there's the NBA factor. The WNBA is owned 50% by the NBA and 50% by the team owners. A lot of people argue the NBA shouldn't have that much control, and maybe they're right. But the NBA also provides resources, infrastructure, and legitimacy that would be very difficult to replace. If the WNBA splits from the NBA, or if the relationship becomes adversarial, what happens to all those shared resources? What happens to the arenas? What happens to the marketing support? What happens to the media partnerships? Here's what I keep coming back to. None of the alternative leagues that have launched in the past few years are playing traditional 5-on-5 basketball in a full season format. Unrivaled is 3-on-3. Project B is doing short tournaments with entertainment elements. Athletes Unlimited is barely surviving. There's a reason for that. Running a professional basketball league is incredibly expensive and difficult. The WNBA has been doing it for 27 years. They have the infrastructure. They have the arenas. They have the television deals. They have the institutional knowledge of how to operate a league. That's not easy to replicate, even with big money backing you. So when players look at these alternative leagues and think we have other options, I'm not sure they're fully considering what it would take to turn any of those options into a sustainable replacement for the WNBA. Unrivaled is fun for an 8-week off-season tournament, but could it replace a full WNBA season? Could it provide the same platform for 44 players instead of 13? I don't think so. Project B has money and vision, but it's trying to create something completely different from traditional basketball. It's more entertainment spectacle than pure sport. That might work for a niche audience, but it's not going to give players the same legitimacy and career foundation that the WNBA provides. And Athletes Unlimited, it's still around, technically, but it's operating on such a small scale that most fans don't even know it exists. The players competing there are mostly ones who couldn't make WNBA rosters or are at the end of their careers. So let's talk about what happens if they actually miss a season. Not just the immediate financial impact, but the long-term consequences for the league and the players. First, you lose an entire year of Caitlin Clark's prime. She's 22 years old right now. Her rookie season was historic. Her second season should build on that momentum. If there's no season, she spends a year playing in alternative leagues or overseas. And when the WNBA comes back, the narrative has changed. She's no longer the exciting rookie taking the league by storm. She's just another veteran player. Second, you lose the Angel Reese rivalry storyline. That was one of the biggest drivers of interest last season. People who never watched the WNBA before tuned in to see them compete. If you take a year off, that rivalry gets cold. People move on to other sports storylines. Third, and this is huge, you lose the casual fans who just started paying attention. The WNBA spent decades trying to build a mainstream audience. They finally got one in 2024. Those fans are not diehards yet. They're not going to wait around for a year while the league figures out its labor dispute. They'll go watch something else, and they might not come back. Fourth, you give the media a reason to write the WNBA is failing narrative. Right now, the media coverage is mostly positive. Record ratings, exciting rookies, growing interest. But if the season gets canceled because of a labor dispute, every article becomes about dysfunction and mismanagement. That's the story casual fans will remember. And here's the thing that I think gets lost in all of this. The public relations battle that both sides are fighting right now, it doesn't actually matter. The fans who are still paying attention to CBA negotiations in January have already made up their minds. They're either pro-player or pro-league. And no amount of leaked offers or public statements is going to change that. The fans who would actually be influenced by this stuff, they're not following it. They don't care about the details of revenue sharing percentages, or whether the max salary is 1.1 million or 850,000 plus bonuses. They just want to know if there's going to be basketball to watch next summer. So every time the league leaks their offer to make themselves look generous, or the players push back publicly to maintain leverage, they're not actually winning over new supporters. They're just creating more noise that makes casual fans tune out even further. The deadline is now 9 days away. They've already extended it once. Will they extend it again? Probably. Because neither side wants to be the one that killed the season. But at some point, the extensions have to stop. At some point, they either make a deal or they don't. And I genuinely don't know which way this is going to go. I want to believe that everyone involved is smart enough to realize they need each other. The players need the WNBA platform. The league needs the players' talent and star power. Neither side wins if there's no season. But I've also seen enough labor negotiations in professional sports to know that logic doesn't always prevail. Sometimes egos get in the way. Sometimes both sides become so entrenched in their positions that they can't find a path to compromise. Sometimes everyone loses because nobody wants to be the first one to blink. So here's where we actually are right now. Stripped of all the noise and posturing, the WNBA has offered to increase salaries significantly. We don't know the exact details because different sources are reporting different numbers. But everyone agrees it's a substantial raise from current levels. The players want more, but they haven't publicly stated what more actually means. We think it involves higher revenue sharing, possibly matching the NBA's 50% split. But that's based on one comment from Kelsey Plum, not an official union statement. Meanwhile, alternative leagues are offering players big money for short-term commitments. That gives the players more options than they've ever had before, which theoretically increases their leverage. But those alternative leagues only exist because of the platform the WNBA provides. So it's not clear if they could actually replace a full WNBA season. The fans are tired of hearing about negotiations and just want to know if there's going to be basketball. The media keeps reporting every development like it's breaking news, even though nothing substantial has changed in months. And both sides keep trying to win public support, even though the public has mostly stopped paying attention. That's the actual state of things. Not the dramatic narrative, not the leaked offers, not the social media reactions, just the basic reality of where we are. And the truth is, I don't trust anyone's version of events at this point. The league is going to make their offers sound as good as possible. The players are going to emphasize why those offers aren't enough. The media is going to report whatever generates the most engagement. Everyone has an agenda. So what do I actually think is going to happen? I think they make a deal. I think it happens right up against the deadline, or maybe even past the deadline with another extension. I think both sides are posturing right now. But when it comes down to